Chapter 1. It was Tuesday, which meant Sheila would be making mac and cheese and frying hot dogs on the stove. It was nothing fancy, but it had quickly become one of her go-to meals. After throwing a little onion in the pan with the hot dogs, and then slathering them with mustard when they were done, it was actually pretty good. That's what she kept telling herself anyway. She'd been working 2 jobs for the past 7 weeks, but still couldn't manage to dig her way out of her debt. When her husband died last year, the debt and loans he left behind had instantly swallowed up his meager life insurance policy. That had left Sheila with his bills. And with no surviving family other than herself, that financial burden fell on her. Some dinners consisted of mac and cheese and hot dogs. If Sheila was feeling especially frivolous, she'd stop by the mini-mart on Crosspin Road in Everson and grab a bacon cheeseburger from under the warming lights. But those nights were few and far between. As much as it pained her to think such a thing, she was glad that she and Chester had never made the decision to have kids. She had no idea how she would raise a child while also trying to pay off all of the accumulated debt. Debt she was quite sure would probably outlive her. There was an easy solution, of course. She didn't have to stay in Boone Junction. She was quite sure it was one of the poorest communities in all of Louisiana. There were no job opportunities, no hope of any sort of development now or in the future, and really, it had always been that way. There had once been a spark of hope, but that had given out after a few jobs. Chester himself had even been a foreman on a logging crew for a good amount of time. Those had been good days. Chester and she hadn't been wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but she supposed many other families in the area had considered them well-to-do. During that time, they'd been somewhat responsible with their money. The trailer that she was currently living in had been paid off, and not too long before Chester passed away from his coronary, they'd even started talking about looking at houses somewhere over near Baton Rouge. But that was a dream that had died with Chester. Unless, of course, she decided to pull up her stakes and go somewhere else. Hell, it didn't even need to be in Louisiana. She could move wherever she wanted to, get a good-paying job, and work on paying off the debt from there. Of course, without a good education, she wasn't going to be able to find the sort of job to knock the debt out anytime soon. And it was there, when thinking about education, that she usually stopped entertaining this daydream. Education meant more money, and money wasn't something she had. So, for now, she worked 2 jobs and hoped to have the debt paid off before retirement age, if she lived that long. People that lived in Boone Junction didn't exactly have long lives to look forward to. She was pretty sure she'd read some sentence information recently that estimated the average lifespan of someone living in the parish was about 75 or so. Tonight, however, there was something else to distract her from thoughts of going to college, even though the community college was about an hour away. It was a rattling noise, like someone nudging up against the trash cans underneath their front porch. It was a common sound, usually an indication that the raccoons were back. Chester had once put up some sort of metal netting to keep them away, but those had fallen into disrepair. It was another thing she'd neglected to take care of after Chester had died. Ignoring the sounds of the raccoons, she cut off the stove burner and rolled the hot dogs and the fried onions onto the waiting chipped plate. She opened the fridge to grab the mustard, and the sound reached her ears again. Only this time, it was louder. This time, it sounded like someone had hauled off and kicked the trash can. If a raccoon was making that noise, it was a very big one. Irritated now, Sheila made her way down the hallway into the small bedroom. Chester's shotgun was still under the bed. She hadn't touched it since he died. Actually, she'd never touched it. Chester had barely ever used it, usually only for illegal duck hunting. It was one of the things he'd left behind that she considered selling for some extra money, but had never been able to bring herself to do it. She was shocked to find that even the thought of getting the gun filled her with sadness.